Hey, everybody. So today we're going to talk about the project team because especially if you're a solo provider, people tend to think, well, I don't have a team, it's just me. But first of all, you always have a team because it's you and the client. Okay, so that is the team. But second of all, it's really more about roles than it is about people, because you're filling multiple roles on your project, whether you realize it or not. And by sharing that with the client, not in a confrontive way, but by sharing that with the client, you give them an understanding of everything that's involved in building a website, and they tend to respect the work that you do a little more. So that's what we're going to be sharing today. Okay, so when you're talking about the roles on your project or your team, you're not really talking about people as much as you are talking about roles. Okay, so a single team member can fill multiple roles, or a particular role might be filled by multiple team members. Most of all, the client needs to understand what the roles are in the project. Now, if your client does not understand anything about web development or a certain aspect of web development, rather than go on Facebook and complain about your client who doesn't understand, they just don't understand what we do, they don't give us respect, I see it all the time. Well, that's your fault, okay? Client understanding is your responsibility. And if you include a list of roles and responsibilities in your proposal or your contract or your master services agreement or whatever tool you use to make agreements with the client as well as educate them, then it goes a long way towards helping them to understand. And then you just need to repeat it as often as necessary, because repetition is what brings about long-lasting learning. So what are all the roles and responsibilities on a website development project, specifically a WordPress website development project? Well, you've got your project sponsor. That's usually, and we'll go over these in a little more detail. I'm gonna give you a brief thing, then we'll go into these in a little more detail. But the project sponsor is usually the client. I mean, it's always the client. But sometimes you might have, at your client, you've got the big boss man who's making the decisions, and then you've got someone who's been assigned to be the manager of the project from the client side. So the project sponsor is that big boss man or boss lady. I didn't mean to be sexist. And then you've got the project manager, which is typically you. And then depending on whether you have a team or not, you may be filling one or more of all of these other roles. The business analyst, the WordPress environment manager, the content developer or manager. Because if the client's doing the content, you might have a content manager, but someone else is actually developing the content. You've got a web designer, a web developer, and we'll get to those in a minute. You know what, that term designer, you're either a designer or a developer. I'm neither, but I build websites, so we'll get to that in a minute. And then an SEO analyst and testers. That's generally the roles and responsibilities that you have on a website development project while you're building the website. But then after the website's built, there's ongoing maintenance. So there's roles and responsibilities where that's concerned as well. You need a WordPress maintenance manager. Now, you don't have to call these people or these roles these specific things. This is what I call them. But the idea is the maintenance manager, most of the time, if you're a solo provider, that's you. You're providing the updates, the server and site maintenance, security, and backups. Then ongoing content, you still need a content developer or manager. Social media, ongoing. You need an analyst or a marketer to help with that. And then you still got your SEO analyst and your reviewers and testers, because when you update the website, someone should be responsible for testing it. So let's break these down a little bit. Now, this is copied from the list of roles and responsibilities that is downloadable from within the WP Project Managers Academy in the WordPress Project Management 101 roadmap. So if you're a member, you can get access to these. And if you're not a member, you'll have to be a member. So you can go download this if you want to, because I provide it to you in Word format, and then you can modify it based on your specifics of the way that you do business. So this describes the project sponsor. That person provides day-to-day project guidance and input to the project manager and other team members. they approve change requests, and they resolve logged issues. Now, that might be one or more people. That role might be divided at your client, but the project sponsor is always the client. Then there's the project manager. That's typically you. That's the person, unless you have a big team and you have somebody designated as project management. So that person ensures that the project is carried out as spelled out in the project documents and according to the plan, reports the status to the project sponsor, and escalates issues requiring resolution by the project sponsor. Now, are these all of the things that these people do? No, these are the highlights, right? This is the whole point of this, is to give your client a firm understanding of not only all the roles that you're filling, but their role. So you want to be very specific about what their responsibilities are, because typically clients think, well, all I have to do is tell them what I want, and then I can go away, and then they'll come back with a website in 2-3 weeks, 2-3 months, and everything will be happy. They don't realize that they need to actually be part of the ongoing project team and be involved on a day-to-day basis. Maybe not every day, but during the project, they have to provide input and feedback and approvals and that sort of thing. And many of them just don't understand that, so you have to educate them. Okay, those were management roles. Now, then you've got requirements and environment. Now, your business analyst, that's a term from my old software development days. That's the role I filled for many, many years in software development. And basically, this is the part of you that elicits the business requirements and the functional requirements from the subject matter expert, which is typically the client. And then it's that person's responsibility to translate those requirements into website solutions or website requirements. Then you've got your environment manager. This comes down to where it's going to be installed, ensures the environment in which WordPress will be installed is appropriate and adequate. Correct. So let's say that you take on a client that is hosting at a really bad host and there's speed issues and everything else. So this person's job is to make sure that you're providing, or at least advising your client on the best solution there to ensure that the website's fast and that it's secure and that they're not going to run into problems on a shared server. And then they assist with the installation and configuration of WordPress on the client's hosting platform. You know you already do this, okay? But it is a separate role, right? We think it's just part of it, but it's not. Then you've got your development roles. You got to have content that's developed. You got to have the website that's developed and designed, okay? So now I'm going to get up on my soapbox about this whole designer, developer, which one am I? In my case, I'm really neither, okay? I'm not a coder. I learned a long time ago. My very first class in graduate school was called Programmed Instruction. I was studying, getting my master's degree in education, and I didn't know what that meant. It was at a convenient time, and it was a requirement for my degree, so I signed up. I walked in there, y'all, and there were computers everywhere. This was in the 80s, so I had never even seen a personal computer, right? Well, I mean, I'd seen them, but I had never sat in front of one or used one. And this was also in the days of 2 floppy drives. There were no hard drives, and the floppy drives were 5 1/4 inch big. And if you dropped that on the floor and then rolled your chair back over it, you were toast because it was ruined. So that I've really dated myself there, but I'm not a coder. I learned that. We ended up having to program some things in BASIC. And if any of you are programmers, you know that you can write 18,000 lines of code and it draws a line across the screen. So it's a very cumbersome language, but I learned then that that's not my strong suit. I did well in the class. It just wasn't my strong suit. I didn't like it. I don't like programming. It's difficult for me to think in the way that programmers have to think in order to be good at what they do. So I'm not a coder. Most people who call themselves WordPress developers tend to have some sort of coding experience or background in PHP or JavaScript or something like that. And they get a little offended when people who don't have that experience call themselves WordPress developers. The same is true from designers. Designers who have a legitimate background in design, whether they have training or whatever, they get a little offended when other people call themselves a website designer or a WordPress designer when they're really not that good at design. Thank goodness for templates, or I'd be terrible at design. But I am a website solution provider. I can put these things together with WordPress. Okay, Kelly says, I can so relate. I felt the same way when I walked into a computer science course in the late 80s. Yeah, you know there's a delay, so people are commenting on something I said maybe about 30 or 45 seconds ago. So yeah, it's true. I was very intimidated by that computer course. But you know what? I'm backing up just a little bit. I went to talk to my advisor and I said, you know what? I don't belong in this class. I've been out working. I haven't taught because I had taught school, then I couldn't find a teaching job. So I had to get a different kind of job. And then I went back to graduate school and I said, I haven't been teaching in a while. And I've been out of school. I'm working in the regular world, and there were doctoral candidates in this class. So it just made me feel really intimidated. And she goes, Beth, trust me, you're going to do better in this class than the doctoral candidates. And she said, and the reason being is because you were out there working, and these people have been in school. They have not been out in the real world. And she was right. I did really well. I made an A in the class. Okay, so back to the development roles. All right, so you've got your content developer manager, and that's the person who either gathers or develops the content, and then ensures that all of that is posted and categorized according to the agreed upon established website taxonomy. The designer plans for how the web project is going to look and feel and behave when presented to the end user. That includes, but it's not limited to, the theme, the branding, the logo, the colors, etc. And so the web designer may also assist with developing pages and posts and other website elements that do not require programming. The developer uses WordPress to build the website, and then they code if there's a need for it. So you can see that if you're doing all of these things for your client, you're filling all of these roles, and that's important. It's important for the client to know these are not all bundled into one role as I'm your worker bee website builder. These are specific roles that require very specific skills. Okay, the next one are the other two that are kind of out there by themselves, and that's your SEO analyst that ensures that all content and the website is formatted correctly to take advantage of the current SEO algorithms. And then you have testers. And again, these are roles, not people. I've talked about them like they're people, but they're actually roles that you fill. And this person tests the website functionality, records the defects, and then retests the functionality after the defect has been repaired. And then we move on to the maintenance end of things. You've got to retain that WordPress environment manager to take care of the environment long term. We all know this. If you offer care plans, then you're going to fill all of these roles for ongoing maintenance. Michael says too many developers either don't plan for testing, or that's the first item cut when time or money runs short. Isn't that the truth? Training too. Training and testing are two things that get cut out of projects and businesses and everything else when money gets tight. And that's bad, because those, in my opinion, are two of the most important things. The reason that I'm reading your comments, even though all of you can currently see those comments, is because I later post these in other social media channels. And so I want the people that are watching this later or watching the replay to know what people said. So that's why I'm doing that. Okay, so you still retain your WordPress environment manager. You still have to maintain that hosting account and platform, ensure that the backups are being created, ensure that all the WordPress elements are updated as appropriate, and overseeing the security of the website and addressing issues as needed. And then your content developer manager, that still goes on after the website project is complete. If there's ongoing content, and there always should be, if that person wants to get some traction on SEO. So they update the existing content as needed, they gather or develop new content, they ensure that all content is posted and categorized according to the taxonomy. Then ongoing social media. If that's part of the services that you're offering the client, then that's something that has to continue to go on, and that they promote the website and the service offerings across all the social media channels. Then you've still got your SEO analyst, and you've still got your reviewers and testers as you move forward into the maintenance end of the project. So those are the roles and responsibilities for what you do, and maybe I would call that a high-level overview of the client's responsibilities. But one thing that's super, super important when you, even from the very beginning, when you're having that very first conversation with the client, is to make sure that the client knows that they are part of the project team. And there are things you can do to make sure that they understand that and to get them involved. So it's really important to make sure that your customer understands that they are part of the project team, and you need to position yourself as a colleague, not a worker bee. So to position yourself correctly, you want to make sure that they understand that the two of you are colleagues working together to solve their business problem. Yeah, I hate to use the word consultant because it has a really bad connotation, but that's what you really are. You're a consultant helping them implement solutions to business problems that they have. So that's why we have this little graphic. You need to set the proper expectations with the client about their role and what is expected of them. And you need to be very detailed about that because they have already made assumptions. You know, they've been seeing all these ads on TV, right? That, oh, you can develop a website in an hour. No problem. Yeah, you can build some pages in an hour, but is that really a functioning website that's going to solve a business problem? In most cases, not. So it's really important to set these expectations with the client early on so they will respect what you do. If you're working on a project for a client, as Tara made this comment, if you're working on a project for a client, you are a team. It's you and the client. Even if he's just a solo business owner, you're a solo business owner, the two of you are working on his website or her website, then you're a team, whether you like it or not. So you got to set those expectations really early. And you can do that in your project documents. You can do it in your first conversation with the client. You can reinforce it in future conversations with the client. So it's really important to become the guide, right? You're guiding the client to their solution. Donald Miller talks about this a lot, how when he talks about story brand and when you're writing content, but it goes true for a lot more than that, that you're not the hero of the story. You are the guide. Gosh, I'm not a Star Wars fan, y'all, but so why can I not think of the little guy that everyone loves, the baby, Yoda? Okay, Yoda was not the hero of the story. Yoda was the guide. Obi-Wan Kenobi was the guide. The hero of the story was Luke, and both of those people helped Luke get to his solution. So you are Obi-Wan and you are Yoda. You are not Luke. You are not Luke Skywalker. You are not the hero. That's the important thing to remember, and that your client needs for you to guide them, even if they don't realize it. The other thing is to incentivize. I think I made this word up. I don't think it's a real word. What the biggest problem, you know, is typically getting the content from the client on time. But there are other things you need them to do as well. You need them to, when you submit something for approval, they need to get that back to you in the proper turnaround time that you've agreed to at the beginning of the project, hopefully, if you're following my tutelage. But they need to get that done. They can't just wait and say, well, I hadn't had a chance to look at it. It's been a couple of weeks. I know I was supposed to get it back to you in 2 days, but I'll try to get that done tomorrow. That doesn't work if you're going to stay on schedule. So what I like to do is I like to, when I do the estimate, the initial estimate, I like to bump it a few $100s. This is not a pad, okay? It's an incentive earmarker, so to speak. But I will bump the estimate like $300 to $500, and then I offer the client a discount of that much if they meet all their project dates. This really drives home the point to them that it's that important. It's so important that I will give you $500 if you will please meet your dates. But it doesn't have to be money. You would be hugely surprised at how people will perform for swag, like a golf shirt or a visor or a coffee mug with your logo on it or their logo on it. You'd be hugely surprised at how they'll do that. Or a dinner out or a gift card. So it does not necessarily have to be money. It's probably going to cost you something, but it does not have to be money. And you have to determine what your client is most motivated by. Most are motivated by money and the bottom line. That's their job as a business owner, is to watch the bottom line. So if you can give them an incentive for helping their bottom line, then it's a win-win. Okay, so let's recap what we've gone over today. Your client needs to understand the roles that are involved with building a website and maintaining a website. And once they do understand, they're going to give you much more respect. But it's your job to teach them. You can't just expect them to know that. You know, as techie, IT, geeky people, we have a tendency to forget what we didn't used to know. That's why the Dummies books were so successful. The very first one that came out, y'all, was DOS for Dummies. And I can remember my dad holding that book up to me and saying, you should have written this book. And I regretted that I didn't. But I didn't know that much about DOS. I'm more of a software person. But his point was, this is a great book. I'm learning a lot. But that's why they came out, is because you have to educate people on the thing, or they're not just going to know these things, right? And then you really absolutely need to position yourself from the beginning as a colleague and not a worker bee. They're not the boss and you're not the worker like it is when you're an employee. You're not their employee. You are a consultant that they have hired. They at least respected you enough to hire you. So take that and stop acting like a worker bee. Stop acting like, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. You have to establish this stuff really early in the project. So for those of you who maybe don't know yet, the way to learn more about this kind of thing and the place to go to get the download of that sheet of roles and responsibilities that I've already created for you is to join the WP Project Managers Academy, join the free program. That's where that download is. You could go ahead and join the premium program, but just to explain, we have a free track and a premium membership. In the free track, you get access to the WordPress Project Management 101 roadmap. You also get the opportunity to get certified, but I'll tell you about that in just a second. In the premium membership, you get both the Project Management 101 roadmap, and you also get the complete project management roadmap for WordPress. That includes some problem-solving roadmaps and the complete framework and project plan for building a website based on our methodology. And this is exciting. We finally launched the Certified WP Project Manager Level 1, which you can get for free. All you have to do is go join the Academy, finish all the 8 module quizzes. There's a quiz at the end of each module. And when you get to the end of module 8, when you finish that quiz, it'll redirect you to a page where there's a link. The course itself is always free. The exam is $39. So that's a way to get certified. Now, what does that mean, certified? Well, it means you're going to get a certificate that you can put in a frame and put in your office. And if you do live videos, you can put it on the wall behind you and you look really fancy. But the best thing it gives you is a badge, an electronic badge that you can put on your website, your agency website. You can put it in your email signature. You can put it on social media. And then when somebody clicks on it, it shows them what you did to earn that achievement. So that just gives you much more social proof. And they can also click a verify button that will show them when you earned it, who issued it to you. You'll be hearing a whole bunch more about this. And to join the Academy, you just go to wproadmaps.com/join us, and it should walk you through everything. Take the course, take all the quizzes, then you take another test. That's right, you have to take the final exam. Okay, so let me explain. The quizzes are quizzing you on the module you just took. The final exam, it's only 15 questions. It's really short. The final exam is more scenarios that say like, okay, here's what happened on this project. What did this person do right? And what did this person do wrong? So I have to have some way of knowing that you were able to correlate's not the right word, that you were able to assimilate all of the information in the separate 8 modules into problem solving on your WordPress projects, because otherwise I wouldn't feel confident certifying you as a level 1 project manager. And please understand that this certification only certifies that you completed the coursework and you completed the requirements. It does not necessarily certify to your client or to you that you will necessarily be successful at implementing everything you learned. That's on you, and nobody can actually certify that. But if you go through the course and you do the work, you will be able to do these things. You will be able to consistently get your projects completed on time, within budget, with the right features. And the difference between the free program and the premium program is that the free program is, I tell you what you need to put in these different processes and how you need to conduct yourself. But the premium program, does most of that for you. So just like I'm giving you this roles and responsibilities list in the free program, there's a whole lot more of that kind of stuff. There's a good bit of it in the free program, but there's more of it in the paid program. Plus, I've got lessons from subject matter experts in all the stuff that goes around project management, like lead acquisition and care plans and all forms of recurring revenue. I'm fortunate enough to have friends all over the world who are experts in those areas, and I'm not. So I was able to get them to contribute to the course so that you could get an idea of all of that other stuff that goes around project management and kind of decide how you want to scale your agency or grow your agency or address those things. So that, can we sit for a live Q&A instead? No, Paul. You have to take the test. It's not that hard. And you can take the quizzes and the final exam as many times. Paul just makes me laugh. You can take the quizzes and the final exam as many times as you need to get the required 80% passing grade, because quizzes and tests are not necessarily just a way to find out what you've learned. They're also a learning tool. So it's going to reinforce the stuff that you learned in the course and in the modules. Old school oral exams. Yeah, there is no oral exam. Hey, that would be kind of fun to add, though. We'll think about that for future. Anyway, so that's the end of this episode of Can We Talk? I appreciate all of you who tuned in live, and it is Monday, the beginning of a new week, and I hope that you all have a lovely week, and be sure to tune in on Friday for our chat, which I don't remember what the title is, but there's a post in the Facebook group. Hey, here's the other thing. If you are ever wanting to know what is the schedule for those upcoming live trainings and what is the schedule for the Friday chats, what's the topic and that sort of thing, if you just click on announcements in the left rail of the Facebook group, those will all come up, so you'll be able to see those really quickly. So hope everybody has a great week. I'll see you next time, and thanks for tuning in. And as always, stay productive, stay strong, and never stop learning. See you guys.